How was it being an older brother to me?
Honestly, I guess if I had to pin it down, it was pretty much just I guess anything that I would ever get in trouble for. I guess I would look at it as a way of seeing it as not what not to do. And I mean, pretty much, I don't know. It's kind of just all like a natural thing. Like I kind of grew up knowing what I'd have to do and what kind of situations I'd be running into and stuff like that. But pretty much, it was like the any ideal, stereotypical, older brother scenario where pretty much just made sure he didn't make any of the same mistakes I ever did because I was the guinea pig.
Do you think mom and dad treated us not like severely differently, but like differently as far as our ages go when we
Yes,
were growing up?
yes, 100% because they were constantly on top of me about being this you know um, perfect first child, get good grades, go to school, be responsible, get a job, blah 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 blah. Um, but as they kind of saw me grow up, they learned and realized what they were able to let you and Jake get away with, rather than constantly being on top of my shit. They kind of I guess it was certain things that they would probably know better than I do. But it was definitely a little less strict in terms of what they wanted to see and what kind of rules they were enforcing.
Um, do you think that there's a reason? I mean, I've asked grandma and mom the same question that who do you think I was closer to, and they both said you. And what do you think the reason was why we were closer, like me and you versus you and Jake, or me and Jake?
Mm-hmm. But you asking me?
Yeah.
I definitely think we are, just because Jake was the youngest, and so like when we and he was always at baseball practice and stuff, so we were always hanging out like through. I was in high school and then going into college and everything, and then you came to Syracuse with me, so that was pretty much inevitable. Um, it was really just because of how we were constantly around each other, and more or less Jake was either playing baseball or doing whatever with his friends, where you were around the house more and around me more for a longer period of time.
Yeah, because mom was saying that it was kind of like Jake was the baby, so like she would say Matt and David go do this because I'm with the baby,
Right.
or go do this because I'm
Yeah.
taking care of Jake.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Pretty much.
um, what do you remember anything we used to do when we were kids, like sport wise, activity wise, stupid games that we made up or anything?
Let's see. Um, I'm trying to think. I think the only thing we really did was just play video games together a lot and play sports together a lot. But that's really all I can think of, other than until we, started doing other stuff together. But like um,
The Xbox really held us down.
that's what I'm saying. That's like that was like one of the first things to get that going. But
Mm-hmm.
that and the GameCube. But I mean, shit, dude. I mean, I don't think there's anything like specifically that I can remember, unless I just have a terrible memory. But
What do you remember what kind of music I prefer to listen to versus your? I mean, you've always been kind of like a rock person,
yeah,
so like, do you remember what I used to listen to?
you were into, um, you were always into whatever was popular, and I think that was what I noticed. And then, yeah, you were never into the same music I was, but you were definitely into whatever was popular at the time, and then whatever mom would make us listen to when we were younger. But then once we got into like middle school, high school, you were always into like like you were into Disney movies, like hella, um, like the Disney music a lot. And then once you got into high school, you kind of switched to what you're listening to now. But that's what I noticed, at least.
Okay. I remember you were the one that was with me when I went on Nitro, when I went on my first roller coaster.
Yep.
How was my behavior during that? Because I don't really remember because like that whole I was scared debacle.
I don't know. I remember convincing you the same way I went on it, because I remember my first time on it was in like fifth grade, when I was kind of forced to go on because literally everyone else was going on the ride, and I kind of just had to suck it up and just go. And that's what I fell in love with it after I got off the ride. So I think I pretty much just convinced you the same thing, whereas we're all going on and we've all gone on multiple times and all have been fine. and then every time we have gone on, we've always ended up loving whatever it was that we were doing. So I think pretty much just kind of it was almost peer pressure in a way. It was kind of just convincing you that if you didn't like it, you don't have to go on ever again. If you do, then you can go on as many times as you want. But that was pretty much kind of the scenario in that case, at least, because I think it was our first year with season passes, and so I think it was pretty much just like, look, if you wanted to make it worth it, you're gonna have to go on this ride and at least see if you want to like it. But
yeah, I remember going up that hill. I'll never forget the fear.
No, yeah, I closed my eyes the whole time the first time I went on Nitro.
Because I didn't realize every time I still go on Nitro and I'm like, wow, this is really high. So
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that we weren't the siblings that spent every waking moment with each other, but like the time that we did, it was pretty much just at home or something.
That's what I mean. Like,
it wasn't anything like crazy stories like, oh, we used to play this game that we made up, like, oh, it was so funny, blah blah. Like, no, we didn't do any of that. Like,
at least not excessively. We didn't, like, to the point where you remember it. Yeah. Yeah, that's what mom said the same thing. She was like, you guys were kind of really just your atypical good children who just kind of we did our thing. She said we were super independent.
Exactly, and that's a good thing, honestly. Probably made their jobs a lot easier.
Yeah, she was saying, she said it would be a lot different if Jake did this project versus if me and you did the project.
Yeah.
Because
Jake was the baby.
Jake was a mess. Freaking almost took my knee out.
Yeah, psychopath.
Oh my god.
That was kind of my fault.
It was nobody's fault. He gave me a wet willy. Right. You backed me up. you understood the situation immediately, and you backed me up. I appreciated that. And then he went full psychopath and grabbed 2 wooden bats. And
makes me wonder if I'd never come down the stairs at just the right time.
Right? That was so convenient for me. Or at least at the time it was convenient. 10 minutes later, It wasn't.
Yep.
So was I more of a... Well, the consensus I keep hearing from everybody is I was more nervous when I was younger. And I've kind of grown out of it. But, like, mom and grandma both mentioned instances of me being, like, scared of something or nervous to do something or nervous to try something. Have I always been like that? Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, I do, because Mom and Dad used to talk to me about it, and your teacher used to tell me about it in, like, elementary school, how you'd always fake sick. Because you're always so scared or nervous to go to school for some reason, because you just didn't want to be anywhere.
I just hated being at school. I still hate being at school.
Yeah. But, no, I can definitely attend to that one.
Do you remember, my lisp at all? Was it a significant lisp?
No, I don't. I mean, I do, but, like, it wasn't anything I ever noticed because it was just part of, like, the everyday kind of... I remember going through speech therapy for it, but I don't remember ever really it being a huge problem.
Yeah, I remember, because, like, I very, very vaguely remember going to, like, speech to fix that, and I very vaguely remember me having a lisp in the first place.
It wasn't that bad to begin with, and, like, it was pretty much gone by the time you got to middle school.
Yeah, whoever that speech therapy person was, she did a good job, I think.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. So
well, think about it. Every Sunday we went to Jet games for 10 years with me, you, Dad, and Jake. Like, that probably helped a lot too. Like, that was a lot of time.
Getting more towards, like, the middle school, high school era of my life, did you notice, or, I mean, you can involve, like, younger generation, or younger age if you remember it, but I doubt it, but, like, did I ever show leadership type qualities through, like, middle school, high school type years as I was growing up? Or did it improve at all?
You did, not middle school, in high school you definitely did. Mostly, like, after your, like, freshman year and stuff, when you started joining clubs and everything. That was when you kind of started coming into your own.
Yeah, because that's what mom said, like, it was, I always seemed to be nervous, like, I didn't really go out of my way, but she said almost all of a sudden, I just made this switch in high school,
Yeah.
where I just started talking
Exactly.
to everybody and started doing everything.
Yep. No, that's pretty much how I saw it too, or how I can at least remember it if I had to remember it anyway. Definitely how it happened.
Yeah, I miss being I miss Key Club. I was just talking to Ryan about it because he was saying how he was like, "Oh, you were vice president. Then when Matt left, you took over his spot. Rigged." Oh my god. Were you assistant manager when I was working at Quick Check?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, right.
I was my senior year.
That job was brutal. It was good,
Yep.
but it was brutal.
It was just the weather was just awful.
Oh, it was terrible.
The summertime was the only enjoyable time.
At least it prepared us for queues, being out in the cold for that long.
Seriously.
Oh my god, especially working the Christmas early mornings and overnights and oh,
Yep. Yep. Fuck it.
don't miss that.
Nope. Especially days like today when I walk outside, I'm like, oh man, I'm glad I'm not working there anymore.
No, yeah.
Just not fun.
Dude, it's been so cold up here. Every day's been getting colder. It's brutal.
Yep.
It's about that
That's
time.
pretty much how it is.
I'm just glad it's not supposed to snow over Thanksgiving break, which is nice. So we're not coming back to anything crazy. Uh, I'm gonna ask one more question. So, do you think um I would have had a much different experience coming to Q's if you weren't here versus like you being here? And like how do you think you being here helped me or like hurt me? Either however you see it.
Well, it helped because it kind of convinced you to stay in a way.
Mhm.
Because you had my house to come to all the time your first semester. And then by your second semester, you kind of had, your crew set up and you're hanging out with them a lot more. But at the same time, like, if I wasn't there, I mean, you probably would have just hated it just as much or somehow found a way to spend more time with the people you hang out with now and maybe possibly end up with the same crew anyway. But at the same, I think it definitely helped you decide to stay, especially after your friends and stuff were able to help use my house for either like gatherings or just hanging out in general, just somewhere to go, like a safe place to hang out because the dorms obviously aren't. But hurt wise, I don't think it hurt me being there, but I mean, if anything, the only way it could have hurt it is if like you met your friends sooner, but that's really it.
Mhm. All right.
All right.
So, what's your name?
Ryan Takis.
And how do I know you, Ryan?
We've been friends since probably middle school, 8th grade,
Yeah.
and throughout all through high school.
Awesome. So, you get why you're here for the Triple Me project. So
Exactly.
I'm gonna throw some questions at you, all right?
Okay.
All right. So, first question. What type of creative activities do you remember us doing?
Well, when we were, back in like high school and stuff, we used to always have a lot of fun with like us two, and then a bunch of a couple of our other friends. Like we used to do a lot of sporting events. Like we'd go to Justice, the local complex near us, and we used to play, soccer, football, anything really. And I remember us going like into the back of the woods, like building a bunch of forts and like cool stuff, like chopping down trees and like just cool stuff like that. And riding quads, we used to do that a lot in the back. So a lot of fun stuff.
I remember. What was it? Did you guys build that path in the back that we used to ride quads and dirt bikes on, or was that just
Yeah,
like
me and Andre like chopped down like, well, it was like kind of already built because his neighbor, not Kenny, it was his neighbor, Vinny. He like made it at first because he had a couple quads, and then me and Andre like went back and like really cut it out all the way like across the river back there. We cut all that out, and so that we could get to that big open area with like the abandoned house in the back.
Yeah. Oh, that's where. Oh wait, were you there when we almost saw the bear? Or when we saw the bear, but we almost like confronted a bear?
I don't think so.
Oh, that was just me and Andre. That was crazy. Because it was like a cub, and we were in that back area by the abandoned house, and it came out of the house, and we were still on the quad and dirt bike, and we were like, what? And we had to turn around. It was crazy.
I remember it was me, Andre, Julia. This was back when he was dating Julia, and Pearl. And we're like we're going into the abandoned house, and all of a sudden we hear, like, I swear, like, it was literally people, like, somebody walking upstairs, like, footsteps on the ceiling. It was, like, so, like, super loud. Like, it was definitely either, like, a big animal or, like, I don't even know, like, a homeless person. Something was upstairs. And we got so scared. We just ran. And and as Andre, like, grabbed Julia and started running, I literally just turned and booked it, and I got out, and I'm like, where's Pearl? I see her, like, running back from, like, way behind us. Like, she must have just, like, froze right away. It was so funny. I was, like, abandoned her in there.
Oh, my God. I remember you guys took me to that house the first time. That was when we first started hanging out, like, 8th grade, right?
Yeah, that was a while ago.
That was too long ago. We're getting old.
Good times, though. Good times.
Very good times. Alright, so I'm asking a second question.
Okay.
Was I ever, like, entrepreneurial in any way?
Yeah, definitely. I remember you pitching ideas to me about, like, different type of hip, like, restaurants and stuff that you wanted to start when you said you wanted to move to California and do all these cool things like that, and a bunch of different apps that you said you wanted to design. And just a bunch. I mean, I always remember you pitching me a ton of ideas.
Were any of them ever good?
Oh, yeah, they're all good. I mean, every one I feel like I would think about, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, that could definitely work out.
I appreciate getting that on recording. Oh, all right. Well, in high school, did I have, like, tendencies of a leader in any way? Like, that led me to be such an entrepreneur type?
Well, yeah, I mean, you were president of Key Club. That's one of the biggest things I remember, and you would always, like, organize all the different events and stuff like that. I remember, like, some things, like we rebuilt, like, a bunch of or we took away a lot of trash from the houses that got damaged in Hurricane Sandy. We did some food drives and stuff like that. It was a big part of Hurricane Sandy when that happened, because that was around the same time. But, I mean, just everything. When you were vice president, and then once Matt, your brother, graduated, you became president, and we kind of, like, all shifted into the club, and it was pretty cool.
I miss Key Club sometimes.
Yeah, that was fun.
Remember when you were vice president, and then you just weren't vice president?
I was vice president, didn't do anything, and then... Oh, that was so bad.
The best part was I really didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I just left it there. I said, keep it on your resume.
Oh, I would have put it on my resume anyway, even if I was like kicked out in the first week.
I remember Kole was super tight because he loved Key Club, and the vice presidency was technically open because you didn't want to do it anymore. And I just left you there. I left your name in. I was too lazy to go back and fix it, so I was like, he'll be vice president again. You weren't any less effective than you were the year before, so.
That's true. I stayed consistent at least.
Oh my god. Okay, so do you know of any flaws I had while I was in those leadership type positions? Did I?
Well, here's something. So, I remember when you used to run cross country and track. It was so fun. I mean, it was almost a natural type thing for you to just get up one day and just go run a race or whatever. You know, I always used to see like I remember one time you told me a story where you like ate a full Domino's pizza before a race and then ran an entire race.
And came in first.
Yes, can't forget that. But I mean, I guess you could say that it sounds like definitely a positive. But I mean, I guess if you think about it, maybe if you were to run like every day or you know, train harder or whatnot, then maybe it would have been even faster. But I mean, that definitely it definitely was still good enough. I mean, even now, like you just ran the Goofy Run last what was that?
It was
summer?
in January, yeah, in January.
Oh yeah, last January. So I mean, you didn't even really train that much for that, and you finished the entire thing. So that's pretty cool. But I mean, I guess you could say if it's a flaw, then I guess if you were to like run like throughout an entire year, you'd probably get a better time. You know?
No, yeah, I was just talking to someone today. Actually, I was like, I wonder if I just like ate better and like actually tried in some of my practices in high school, where I'd be in my track career.
Who knows what it would have been? Not drinking $2. What was it, like $2 for $2 Pepsi, 1 liter Pepsi at Quick Check every single day?
No, the 3 for $3, like 1.5 liters. Oh, just chug them down.
Drink 500 of those. That's funny.
Oh my god. Oh well, laziness is definitely a key address.
Yeah.
Have we ever like really fought? I feel like we've definitely fought, but I can't think of a specific example. And like, why do you think we fought?
I have a good idea. I have a good one.
Is this gonna be like a bad story about me specifically, or is it?
No. It's gonna be the story about when me and Andre used to have like combined birthday parties, and then one year like I decided that we should have like separate, and then Andre got really mad at me, and then you kind of just like tagged along with him and got mad at me too.
Because it was a move at the time. It was a move. I stand by my decision. Explain it.
Let me think.
So like, why did you want to have the separate birthday parties in the first place?
Well, you know, it was more of a cleanup type of thing. It was more of my mom's, really. It was more of like, I remember the previous 2 years, we had like both people and there's like a ton of guests, and it ended up just being like me and my mom cleaning it all up at the end and trying to figure out how to like put everything away and fix whatever damages there were. So it was her idea for the next year to be like, all right, let's just do a single birthday party and like very more low key, and then maybe Andre can have his own too, and we can have like 2 separate ones. So that's how it all started.
But you should have just asked. You should see my stance on it at the time was, why didn't you just tell him one time, like, yo, clean up after this?
Yeah, probably should have done that. But that's when I was younger and more like I didn't want to confront Andre and be like, hey, you got to come back and clean.
Although looking back, I probably should have just not taken sides, but rather been a diplomat between the two parties.
Yeah, that was just such a dumb fight.
That was a stupid fight. I
It
remember
lasted
that.
so long too. It lasted way
Yeah,
longer
that
than
lasted a minute.
Yeah, that lasted a pretty long time. And I remember how it ended. We were just sitting in the at a basketball game across the court from each other in separate bleachers, and it was like me and Braden on one side, and I think it was like you, Andre, and I think Julia was still with him at the time. Or maybe it was like right after Julia or something. I don't know. And you guys were sitting on the other side, and I like looked up and I like saw you like in the crowd, like both of you guys, and I was like, and I don't remember if I waved across the thing or I texted or if I texted you or Andre or somebody texted me. However it happened, we got in contact with each other, and we were just like, yeah, let's just stop doing
this. We worked it out gentlemanly. Took a while.
Yeah, eventually.
Oh man, high school.
Yeah, good times and bad times, but.
Oh my! You know what I miss? And I was just reminded. So do you remember when we used to play airsoft all the time?
Yeah, that was the best back in our neighbor's woods.
Yeah. Oh my God! And behind Callie's house.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a perfect course too because there was a nice like stream right in the middle of it, and then there was a tree that got knocked over right across it. So like we'd use that as like a bridge to go from one side to another, and that was a lot of fun.
It was like a Call of Duty map. It was crazy.
Literally. It was
we had the
cool
sniper.
map.
We had the sniper in the back. We had the AKs.
Yeah, that one tree that was like on an angle. You can climb all the way up to it and just snipe from up there.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I still have those too. We just moved to Pennsylvania. And when we were moving in, I was opening up some cabinets, and I saw them, and I was like, "Wow, good times."
Wait, is there good areas in your Pennsylvania house? I forgot you moved where we could do that again.
Yeah, it's literally all like, I mean, Bucks County is like very like old type towns and stuff, like where you have like a bunch of restaurants and shops, like kind of like Red Bank or like something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's like wood everywhere, like. Where my house is, at the end of my street, which is like, you can see it from my driveway, there's a 280-acre nature preserve, which is like just trails and like running trails and biking trails and like lakes and everything. It's huge. I took my dog for a walk in it, and like there's just so much area. So like, yeah, we could definitely go in there and play.
What how do you remember how it was as a student? Like, was I a good student? Because I remember, and be totally honest. Because I feel like I used to finesse a lot of my teachers, especially like Miss Bunce and everybody.
Oh my gosh, Miss Bunce. No, you were definitely, both of us, we were always in, like, all honors and AP classes. We were in a couple AP classes together. And we both definitely worked really hard in school. We were always, like, we always had, I guess a little bit of natural smarts. But I think both of us, we were kind of the same in that regards to where we could have worked harder studying and stuff like that. But, then again, some classes just kind of came, like, natural. So, it wasn't that hard, the high school classes, so we were kind of just going to it, do the homework the night before, and, kind of do
the morning of.
Still. yeah, or the morning of. We still did well, but I guess we could have probably, now looking back on it, now looking at our college work ethics, we definitely could have worked a little bit harder in the classes, but, that's high school, that's how you learn. Miss Bunch was the nicest lady in the world.
She was so nice. I never felt bad about it because I always helped her out in other ways. So I feel like she was just patting my back.
Yeah, I feel like the amount of things I sold for like National Honor Society, like the candy boxes and stuff, I used to sell to my family members. Like, it'll make up for it.
And she loved how involved I was with Key Club. Like, she always talked. Whenever I decided to come to class, she would always talk to me about that.
Yeah. She knew what the important things were. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Whenever I'd have, because like, I think that was my were we in the same class for that? I don't remember if we were in the direct class or if we were in like opposite classes. But that was like my fourth period, and the other, so like on A days I had that, and then on B days I had early release. Mm-hmm. So like some days I would come in on A days and I'd be like, I don't really feel like staying all 4 hours to sleep. I didn't even go to her class, and she like wouldn't even care.
No, yeah, I don't think you were in our class. You were with like Jarrett and like all them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was me, Andre, Pearl, and Jess Cody.
Oh yeah,
That's why me and Andre never went to class.
yeah. That's funny.
Oh my god. I like what you said with the like, oh, that's she knows the important stuff because that's like that makes
Exactly. Yeah. She definitely had feel for, I mean, what was important in life and what didn't matter as much.
she knew the good students from the bad students. She didn't want to make a good student do poorly just because they didn't want to sit in stats for an hour every day.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
What type of business tendencies did you see when we were growing up? Like whether it was through Key Club or like through something I did independently or like my financial habits.
I mean, going back to the Key Club thing, you were always on top of everything, whether it be your job that you had to actually do or another one of the like board members' jobs. Like I know you were always trying to handle like the treasurer position and everybody, and like make sure everybody was coordinated correctly and figure out all that stuff. But I mean, outside of school, I remember that both of us, we always had jobs and always like knew what it took to please our bosses and keep the job. Obviously, like we both worked at Six Flags, which was good. I mean, we were two of the better employees there. Like the supervisors always like loved us, and just from like when we started there throughout, like we both, I think you worked for 2 years and I worked 3 years there, and we both, I mean, throughout the years we were always the people who they would need to call upon if they ever needed a job done or anything like that. So I mean, I'm sure that if we stayed there for long, if we decided that that's what we wanted our career to be, we would have moved up in the system and been able to handle it. So I think that's where a lot of our, I guess you could say, responsibility traits started. Like in personal, like our personal lives too, it was cool. Like whenever we have like group get-togethers or whatever, I remember you always like would plan them out and say like, well, we went to your house a lot, or whoever house we go to, like you always send out text messages and coordinate everything, or like you were always organized and like know what you're doing. So that was also good.
I remember I used to be the micromanager.
Yeah, exactly. And like back in high school, me and Andre, we would always just be like, oh yeah, let's just go with the flow. Like sometimes like, he always had like a stick plan that we'd have to do, which was good because without that, I think we would have been too chaotic.
Oh, I hate it. I hated in high school. Everyone was like that. Like, yeah, whatever. And I'd just be like,
yeah, exactly.
Oh my god, like we need decisions.
And then now in college, everybody's like, oh my god, we have to do this and this and this and this. And
Yeah,
you're like I feel like now you're a little bit more mellow, and you're like, let's just go with the flow.
Facts. Oh my god.
That's funny.
I do remember you as a little guy with your lisp, and you were very cute. When you couldn't like pronounce some of the words, and I don't know, just little things like that, and how you played. See, the things I remember are things that you did because I mean, I know when I babysat you, you were like the good child. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Matt was a fancy, Jake was a little devil. You were kind of like the child in the middle that, okay, all right, you're just very easygoing. Unless you were holding things inside, because you were just always so agreeable, so happy, you always smiling. I remember that. And how far back in childhood? Because don't forget, I have a 72-year-old brain right now.
Well, I'm trying to we're focusing on like the early ages, so like, but like you're around the right age to be talking about. Probably like up till 11, 12-ish, but I have some questions if you want me to follow along.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I remember you playing football too, that little league football. You were playing that, but I don't know how. You didn't last too long with that because I remember you playing in the summertime with the black Jackson uniforms on.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you coming over. I think I was with your mother. We were just watching, and you come over and. You took the helmet off, and the poor thing, I remember you had a mark on your head, you were sweating. Yeah, but you just went back in and did what you had to do. But of course, I think, how old were you then? 8 or 9? You were young then.
Yeah, I remember, I didn't like it because they put me, I was super skinny, like I was a pretty small kid, you know.
Yeah.
But, and I remember they kept putting me at lineman. And against these really, really big kids, and I got sick of it really quick. So.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe it was the heat that got you.
Oh, it was a mixture of both.
Because let me tell you, I was feeling for you. You know how I feel about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you got some questions? That might be a good idea because, it might jog something. Because, you don't realize how many years ago that was? Okay, go ahead, shoot.
All right. Well, you kind of touched on this, but one of the questions I had was I different from my brothers, from Matt and Jake, when I was younger, or like as I was growing up?
Oh yeah, you were definitely different. Like I said, you were the more agreeable. You always had a smile on your face, and when you smiled, you got those chubby little cheeks and the big eyes, and you just look at okay, You were kind of like the one that I had to worry about the least. Matt was more on the going all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake was like I said, a little, sort of a little devil at that point. Not as dirty as he is now. Don't tell him that. He was a little, but you were always the agreeable child, and I never had a problem. I know you used to like to sit and when I read a book, you used to like to sit and read with me. Okay, now what else?
Okay, here's a good one. What kinds of gifts did I ask for Christmas? Do you remember?
My goodness gracious.
Not like specific, you don't have to list specific examples, but like, what type of gifts did I ask for?
David, I truly don't remember. I think years ago, I would ask your mother, and sometimes she didn't know. So years ago, I think I played it by, probably just the normal stuff. I think I remember Fisher-Price toys. I don't know if you asked for them. But I remember, like the Fisher-Price farm or something that you can use your imagination with.
Or even, like, it doesn't have to be, like, when I was a toddler. It could be, like, when I was, like, 11, 12-ish, like, older. I don't know if you remember that anymore, but...
Oh, my goodness gracious. Oh, my God, if everybody has a memory like me, hopefully you get a good grade on this. Oh, my God. David, probably games. I don't know. I don't remember.
That's all right. That's a pretty specific question.
How about... Years ago, you didn't much ask for things. You got what what you thought. And if Mom or Dad had a suggestion, okay. But, I think I used my judgment
Mm.
at that point. I learned things maybe by your mom, but you don't forget. You got gifts from everybody at that point. So, do you think I remember? No, sorry.
Here, how about this might joggle memory? Like, is there anything that I did when I was younger that would lead you to believe that I was gonna be more of a creative type person? Like, was I any more creative than my brothers or anybody else when I was younger?
Oh my God! Jesus! How can you tell that when you're so young? I don't know.
Well, like, did I used to draw? Did I used to like do? I don't even know, but.
I swear, those are things that mom and dad know because they've been, they're with you all the time. I mean, I was around, but when I was there, I was babysitting, and I mean, we used to play games and nothing. Like I said, you like for me to read your story, things like that. Or else we played. I remember playing outside. We'd run around. I used to like to run around. I used to have races with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why you got into track.
Maybe.
You used to try to beat me, but I always beat you anyway. I remember that because I think back now when I think of Lisa and Alice, and I think I said, what? I could never do that with those kids.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah. We used to have races on your front lawn, and you used to like to try to beat me. No, seriously, you were the one that had the most. Because I think Matt was a little chunky at that point. He didn't travel too fast.
I remember watching him on the baseball field, jogging.
Yeah, you like to do that even then. I remember having races with you. So maybe that's why you had joined the track team for a little bit.
Yeah.
But,
that's fun. Actually, no, I don't really remember that. I don't really remember that.
Yeah. Oh, I remember having races on your front lawn. Oh, yeah. I was very happy with myself. That's when I was younger. I could still do it.
Was I like energetic most of the time when I was a kid, or was I kind of just like whenever you saw me?
You had your moments. Like I said, you were more of a laid-back kid. In other words, like you kind to me, from my memory, you went along with everything. You were just a happy kid until you got with the racing and stuff. That was when you got a little bit older. You were able to kind of keep up.
Mm-hmm.
But I just remember you being such a happy-go-lucky child. That's what I remember. You always had a big grin on your face, with your pudgy cheeks, and that's what I remember. I think you got along with everybody. You made friends easy. I remember you in preschool when you were within what is that, Prince of Peace or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember you there. You like to. Didn't you sing a solo at one point, or is that something that I
don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, well, that you better ask your mother for something like that, because your mom might have a better memory than me. But
do you remember? Do you remember any like performances that I did in like elementary school or middle school maybe, or like anything, or actually probably not middle school, in like elementary school, any like stage performances that you went to or anything that I was part of?
God, oh, David.
I don't even remember if I was part of anything really, other than like maybe chorus. Did you go to the chorus concerts?
You should have asked me about 15 years ago. like I said, the kind of child you were. You seemed to be such a happy kid with the, you know. And I remember when you talked, your little lisp, and you were so cute, you know, that kind of thing. You know, and I remember you playing the football, and
So first question is, was I a creative kid? Like, did I do anything outstanding that was like made me seem more creative?
I don't know. I mean, artistically, no, but you're always curious, you know. I was just actually watching a video of you in those little play hut tunnels,
Mm-hmm.
and Andrew's trying to get you to crawl through the tunnel. All you're looking at is a tag. Trying to figure out how to mess with the tag. You're trying to mess with the baby gate, but you're always smart. Creative, I don't know. I mean, I let you guys color and do Play-Doh and everything when you were little, so you guys were always interested in that stuff. You know, I always had you guys doing very, what do you call that? Hands-on stuff, you know? And you always seem to like it, so.
Okay.
Creative is a weird word, because it's not, I mean, I think creative, I think artistic, and you are not artistic, but you're always interested in different things, you know?
So like curious rather than creative.
Curious, very curious.
Are there habits I used to have that I grew out of?
Yes, you were a little, and I mean this in a bad way, David, you were a little sensitive. You were a little, you know, the kid that always went to the nurse, always thought he was sick, you know. But other than that, lisp, you know, you outgrew your lisp. Trying to think, habits you grew out of. You used to be afraid to go to the bathroom. You grew out of that, thankfully.
Grandma said that too.
Go poop. Just poop. That was it. No, you were a pretty easygoing kid. Like I said, up until just in elementary school, you liked to always look for an excuse to come home. You know, other than that, and you outgrew that, so. Trying to think as you got older. No, because you were very, you know, once you outgrew that, you became the opposite. You became very social and adventurous, so definitely outgrew that.
How did I interact? Like when I was younger, more so when I was playing with friends, like I guess the Umbros or.
Oh my God, that's exactly what I'm watching right now, and you were, you know, even when I introduced you, I was just watching video of me introducing you to Peter and Safer and Chris Roberts, and you were all about 6 months old, sitting up,
Mm-hmm.
and Peter's crying. He doesn't want to be near anybody, and Michelle put Chris near you, and at first you looked like you were starting to cry, and then I went, David, that's Christopher, and you were like, oh, and then you just were fine. Like you weren't afraid of anything, you know. I mean, like I said, I'm watching video from LBI, and the kids are running around, and you're in the playpen, and you know, you're just Robert and Andrew are picking you up, and Andrew was feeding you food, and you know, you just didn't have a problem with anybody. You know, you were very socialized as a child, so you never really had any issues with strangers or meeting new cousins or anything.
Did I continue to act like play the same way with friends as like I grew up in, I guess, towards like middle school type age?
Yeah, I don't remember you ever not playing with friends. I remember taking you to friends' houses. You know, different friends. You always seem to meet new friends. You know, at one point you were friends with Putty Pong, and then, you know, you don't really see him anymore, but you always seem to meet new friends depending on what you were doing at the time. You know, I mean, for the most part, the friends on the street were your friends, you know, growing up. And then, I don't remember, when did you meet Che and all those guys? Was it high school or middle school? I don't remember.
Middle school, I think Che and like that whole other group.
Yeah.
Like not the high school group that I used to hang out with. Like, but yeah. That's
yeah, no,
getting.
you went to a lot of birthday parties and things, and yeah, no, you definitely didn't. You didn't stick to your friends on the street, that's for sure. No, you definitely broadened your horizons with friends.
Alright, change the subject. So, do you think I was closer to? I mean, might be a pretty obvious answer, but I kind of want to hear reasoning behind it. Was I closer to Matt or Jake as I was growing up?
No, I think it was Matthew, just because he was older too. You you had the most in common by the time Jake was born. You knew how to play. You had already had 2 years with Matthew. I think you always, Jake was the baby. So it was always like Matt and David. Go play on with the baby. Go do this on with the baby.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys just naturally became buddies.
So we did this thing in the Triple E class where we defined they're called social styles, and it's basically just like how we approach and react to different situations and such. So my social style was expressive, which is kind of just like more outgoing. Like I like to keep things moving along, but like I'm not anal about anything, because that'd be more driver, like dad kind of thing, where it's micromanagement, like you want to get everything done.
No, it's not you.
And I'm more of like a expressive, which was my type, is more of like an easygoing, like we'll get there, just make sure everybody stays on task, make sure everybody gets along, blah blah blah. Does that make sense even from when I was like younger and used to hang out with friends or do whatever? Does that expressive style work?
Yeah, I don't remember you ever having tantrums, he's not playing it right, or she's not doing it, she won't play it. No, you just played well with everybody. But, you weren't a pushover either, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember all the times we went to Lake George and you guys first met the Bots and everything, like, everybody just got along,
This is kind of a broad question, but who was I closest to, either family or friend-wise, when I was younger, like growing up? Is there any definitive person I was kind of close with?
What do you mean, like how young?
What?
How young? Baby, toddler, elementary school?
Like toddler, elementary school area.
Oh, probably me, because you spent a long time with me.
Okay.
I mean, as a baby, like, this whole video I'm watching, all I had to do was say, David, and you were like, Mommy, your whole face just went, like, didn't even say, Mommy's voice, Yeah, well, because you just spent most of the time with, don't forget, not only did you spend time with me because Daddy was working, Kim and Nancy and I got you guys together as kids, Ruth and Michelle and I got you guys together as kids. You're always with the moms,
Mm-hmm.
Except the weekends, sometimes, and, the dads and stuff would get together.
Let's see. Oh, so, what was your favorite Halloween costume that I had?
My favorite Halloween costume that you had?
Yeah.
The T-Rex.
The T-Rex? How old was I?
Oh, my God. You had to be... I'm trying to think. Oh, my God. You were so little. Maybe 4 or 5? I'm trying to think if you were that little. No, because you couldn't wear it to school. You might have been kindergarten or first grade. You were still kind of young. Maybe 6, 7. I'm trying to think. Isn't that terrible? I want to know, maybe 5 or 6, because the reason why it was so cute is because you still have those really fat cheeks. And when you put the head on top and your little cheeks stuck out, and then you walked, and you were just this little chubby little wobbly T-Rex, and it was just so cute because you were so little and you were this big dinosaur.
Did I like want to be a T-Rex really badly, or was it just kind of like one of those?
You just, again, you did. I don't think you asked for it. I just said this is the cool costume, and you didn't mind being in it, and I think that was the Halloween that it was really warm, and we had to keep taking the hood off because.
I feel like I kind of remember that.
The warm costume for a warm Halloween.
I feel like I kind of remember that happening. That's funny.
Yeah, because I remember there's a picture of you guys in the front of somebody's house, and you're wearing it. And you're not. I mean, you were definitely a pro at walking by then. So, like I said, I want to say maybe it was kindergarten or something. Like maybe even I don't think you wore it to school though, because again, you couldn't wear a costume like that at school in case you had to go to the bathroom or something,
Mhm.
But yeah, that's my favorite.
What kind of gifts did I ask for Christmas? Like, just if you could generalize it as I was growing up.
time. I mean, as you got older, it was either Pokemon cards or Yu-Gi-Oh cards, video games, um, certain movies. You weren't really, honestly, I wasn't a big proponent of the make-a-list for Santa. I just kind of always watched what you guys liked and just got it for you. We never did the make-a-list for Santa thing. We never sent letters to Santa.
Yeah, I don't remember making lists when I was younger. I just kind of remember.
No, because I always felt if I did that and then I couldn't get something, you would just be disappointed, So I just kind of.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because I spent so much time with you guys, I knew what you liked, and if I saw something you'd like, because don't forget too, back then we didn't have a lot of money, so a lot of things I got. That's why I was a big advocate of. You guys had a lot of shit to open, but a good portion of that was puzzles or Play-Doh or paints and paper, and I would wrap everything, but not all of it was toys. A lot of it was like those play hut things, those tunnels, and ride-on trucks, things that, Daddy always said I should open a daycare in the house because we had everything. Everything in that room you guys had that a daycare has, But you guys weren't real needy kids. You weren't the kind of kids that have to have anything, particular. If there was a movie out at the time, like I remember when The Incredibles were popular, you guys each had one of the, like, Baby Jack doll or the father that stretched, and, it depended on what they, but we weren't those kind of parents that got you anything because it was the new hot toy, and maybe one thing, but we didn't kind of feed into that. Well, you always were not afraid to try new things, you tried football, realized you didn't like it. That was the one thing we didn't force you to continue because, you could get hurt and you were terrified at some point, when they did those agility drills. You were like, yeah, I don't like this,
Yeah, because I was getting smacked around. I was small.
I'm sorry, ankle drills. But you did baseball, you did karate.
The only person to get his black belt, by the way.
What'd you say?
I said the only person in the family to get his black belt, by the way.
Right, and you did track, and, usually when you started something, you finished it, baseball, you grew out of, and then you moved on to track, and, what's funny is, the one thing I will say, it's not that you were not as, I don't know how to describe it. Do you remember when we did the falls in Jamaica, the waterfalls, and you hated it? You were terrified?
Hated it. Definitely remember that.
You're literally crying in the picture. That's how much you hated it.
It scarred in my head, yeah. I remember it.
Right, but now you're the kid that goes on roller coasters and, do you do Fright Fest or anything like that, or no? Is that Matt? Did you do Fright Fest or anything?
I used to. But I still do, I don't dislike them.
Yeah, well, I never was a big fan of Halloween, so, we didn't do that kind of stuff, but...
Yeah.
I tried not to get you guys to be afraid of things I was afraid of. Like, whenever Daddy rented a boat on Lake George, you had no problems going on the boat. Look, you went snorkeling. Scuba diving in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you were never afraid to try new things, And if you didn't like it, or you it would take something like football where you just were like, ow, that hurt, I don't want to do this, for you to quit. You would always try it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, for in elementary school, that might have been your attachment to me a little bit. I don't know. Or you always thought you were, wanted to go home. But after a while, I never really took you home. The school nurse would just call me, and I would kind of talk you off the ledge, and you'd go back to class. It wasn't like I wasn't like Aunt Jen. It was like, I'm coming to get him. You didn't go home. And I'm just trying to think. Yeah. So you always, you were never afraid to try. Try new things, and obviously, based on your experiences with track and being hurt, both at Disney and in cross country, you definitely don't like to not finish something, even when you're hurt. So you definitely finish what you start. You were always probably the most emotional of the three boys.
That
You're
makes
the most
sense.
thoughtful. You've always been the most thoughtful. Think out of the box. What would someone really like kind of kid. Matt, I think, was probably because he was the first. He didn't really never had to ask for anything. Nor Dave, nor Jake. I was just watching a video of you when we had the swing set, and Matthew started pushing you, and I said, "All right, Matthew, push him straight," and he goes, Nancy, you push him. Nancy, you can push him. And you were just sitting there like, yeah. I mean, and at one point you weren't even swinging, and all the kids around you were going up and down the slide, and I just looked at you, and you're like, "Hey, Ma," you're just looking at me like, you're not even moving, and you're sitting in the swing. You're just so happy that everybody was running around you. You're not the atypical middle child, because even though you weren't the kid who could maybe swim with the other kids at the time, like even LBI, all the other kids could run around, you couldn't. But you just got such a joy out of being part of the crowd. You were not the neglected middle child, that's for sure.
So I've always been kind of like a people person, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, because like I said, you were very independent. Very, like I said, curious and independent is probably the two strongest words. And just like I said, just the most empathetic, I think, out of all three. Matthew, a very close second, just in a different way. I just don't know if he can tap into those emotions.
He just yells.
Yeah, but again, this is all when you were kids. When you were kids, you were all just sweet as pie. I mean, none of you had anger issues. None of you ever got into fights with your friends. None of you didn't want to share. And you were all very, even Jake. I mean, you were all very friendly. And again, I think honestly, I think probably one of the biggest reasons you all turned out that way is not only because Daddy and I were chill parents, but you were highly socialized with kids your own age from the street. I mean, like constantly. We were constantly at each other's houses on the weekend. We were having breakfast together, picnics together, trick-or-treating together, So I think that definitely just set the foundation for how important friendships were,
Was there anything I did, like, when I was younger that would, I guess, lead you to believe that, like, it would be like did I ever act like a leadership type of person? Like, would I ever take charge of, like, when I'm hanging out with friends, or, like, did I ever do anything like that? If you can remember. I mean, like, I don't know if I did or didn't. Can't remember that specifically.
Well, I can't think of specifics, but I do know that, honestly, I don't remember a time where I had to worry. Like, in other words, you were always a very responsible kid. You were always you weren't the kid that I had to double check and triple check. Did you bring it home? Did you get it signed? Did you give it to your teacher? Did you do this? You always had everything under control.
Mm-hmm.
You and Matt both. You were never blatantly irresponsible with anything. You know what I'm saying? You never did anything stupid. You know what I mean? You were never that kid that I can recall ever did anything that I just wanted to go, what the F were you thinking? You know what I'm saying? I can't recall any time that you did that. You were always a pretty common sense kid, but you knew how to have fun. You weren't like, oh, I can't do that. Something might happen. Like, actually, Matthew, in this video, Allison, she's trying to walk up the slide, and she's like, I don't know, not even 2 or just 2, and she's a little itty-bitty thing, and she keeps falling down on her face, and she's laughing. She don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at me, and you go, Allison's going to get hurt. She's going to get hurt, So, again, very empathetic, even at that age,
Mm-hmm.
You guys are always looking out for your friends, But, yeah, no, I can't recall you doing anything. Never had issues with trust with you, or you were Grandma and I, you were just easy, easy going kid. But again, I think it's probably because of environment you grew up in. Like, if you just saw the video I did, Andrew and Robert, they're picking you up, they're feeding you, Andrew's videotaping while we're taking a bath. I'm washing you up, and he's talking to you, and everybody's talking to you at the same time. And it was never a quiet house in our house. Let's just put it that way. I don't think you guys ever got used to, like, you could fall asleep anywhere. That is one thing. Like, that's how I mean, your baby picture from the hospital, you're sleeping. Like, you were just always like, this kid was like, I'm going to go to sleep, I'm going to go to sleep. You know, you just did what you wanted to do.
I can still go to sleep at any time.
Yeah. I mean, there was a party at Nancy's house with 4th of July, and you're in one of these little baby seats. There's music playing around you. Rachel Sampson is touching you, and Terry's like, no, he's sleeping, Rachel, and you're just out, you know. Yeah, you just, you did your own thing. As a matter of fact, even in this LBI video, I remember, I don't know what you had a reaction to either the sand or the salt water or something when we were in LBI, and I couldn't take you back to the beach because we had filled the baby pool with ocean water, and we didn't know what you were allergic to or reacted to, so, and you were fine. Like, we had a little baby pool up on the deck, and, you know, like I said, you rolled with it, David, you still do. But that's the one common denominator in your growing up is, like, you just kind of always rolled with it. You know, maybe that's the perk of being the middle kid. You're not old enough where I could say, oh, just do it yourself, and you're not young enough where I have to give you so much attention, so you just figured, I guess I can figure this out, I can do this, you know. I'm now looking at videos of Matthew, he's 2.5, and he's in front of me drinking orange juice from a glass. And I'm like, I don't remember me being like that, you know. That's like, I had juice in the glass, and I'm like, all right, okay, and I'm like, he could have spilled it all down his shirt, all over the rug, and I don't know. I guess I was a lot more chill back then than I thought I was, you know. I mean, you guys never wore clothes. In every video, you guys are all wearing diapers. And the funniest thing is that Matt and Glenn were in one of those baby pools, and there was no swim diapers back then. So now they're running across the yard with like 5 pounds of diaper material soaking, and they're dragging their butts. They're running around the yard. Oh my God. Like, everybody just Haley, no one's got clothes on. You're all wearing diapers. It was just very casual, you know, like, I didn't dress you up like little China dolls, you know, I just, had fun, and, you know, I don't know. That's it. Lucky kids. You had a mom who wants to see you have fun.
Well, I think I got enough footage for my thing, so thank you, Mama.
Yeah, if you think of anything else, but like I said, you were never a challenge as far as my patience, or it was always a pleasure, you know. Every picture you're smiling, you know. And I mean, you know, until Jake hit puberty, he was pretty easygoing. I shouldn't say that. Jake was always a nudge, but God, if he ever had this thing with me, his teacher would think I hate him. I really do love him, even though he almost killed me, you know. You were good. Even matter of fact, we were talking the other day because Colin brought over to puppy, and we were talking about that time you were in CJ's yard, and Ike, the dog, grabbed your sleeve.
Oh.
Connie said, no, David, don't play with him like that. And you're like, no, you know, it's okay. And then he just pulled your sleeve, and you were like, ah! But even then, you weren't, like, afraid of dogs after that, you know, because Connie told you, no, he's just playing, and then he stopped. So, like, you would think that would have traumatized you about dogs. But it didn't, because he was just playing with you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, it just, you know, I don't know, David. You gotta do good things.
I try.
Yeah, you've got good foundation, so you'll be just fine. If you think of anything else, let me know, but I guess it's terrible to say I can't remember things because there was nothing bad that sticks out in my head. You know what I'm saying? I can't recall, you know, even a couple times you got hurt when you were little, you know, you weren't doing anything any other child wouldn't have done. I mean, you fell off a little chair in the playroom, and you know, playing in the hamper in our room, and it fell over. But Daddy and I were right there. It was our fault.
Oh, like when I hit my eye on the dresser?
Yeah, but you weren't that kind of kid that put himself at risk, you know, like, you know, some kids like to jump out of trees and climb trees, and like you weren't stupid like that ever. You know.
Well, that's good to hear. Glad I'm not stupid.
Yeah. But again, I think a lot of it has to do, David, with you were always around family and friends. Your grandparents were here, your Uncle Pete was here, your cousins. I mean, you saw your cousins from Florida more than you see your cousins from Tom's River.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, we took you on a lot of vacations. We took you to different countries, different experiences. We took you on cruises. I think that all plays into how you all turned out. You kind of, you didn't live in it. There's some people who could say that their kids still, Thailand and shit, but I think Daddy made sure you guys did enough stuff that you were pretty well rounded. And I think that also plays into why you guys became very independent, because when we were on cruises and things, you were in a camp, or we would give you little, when we went to beaches with the Umbros. Okay, well, you're with the Umbros, so you can go do this by yourself. Like, we were able to give you guys a little more leash,
Mm-hmm.
Because we always had that security blanket of being with friends or family on vacation. So I guess if I had to pick a secret, that was it. Experiences and family and friends,
It's probably it. Probably a good majority of it.
You were all loved. You all had fun. Thank God. You're all blessed not to be traumatized by any, horrible events in your childhood, so.
Cool. So, what is So, what's your name and position at the Blackstone Launchpad?
So my name is Braden Croy, and I'm the program manager at the Blackstone Launchpad.
So, why did you first hire me? Like, what traits or skills did you see that?
Hire you?
Yeah.
Oh, this is an interview about you.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, I think you were recommended to us by Christian, right? So one of our previous employees, which is, I'm correct on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's a huge, any time that a company is looking to fill a role, word of mouth referrals from within the company are the best that you can get. So actually out in Silicon Valley, they incentivize it. So if you refer someone to the company and they get hired, at some companies you can earn between $5,000 and $7,000 for each person that you refer that gets hired at a company. So there's nothing stronger than that word, because if that person was a good employee, then they're going to run in similar crowds and recommend people. And we loved having Christian. But also you had a really, you just had this kind of go get them attitude, right? It didn't ask how mundane the task was, every week putting startup thinking together or doing, name input on MailChimp. You just attacked it, and then you've grown a tremendous amount into what I think is the best role for you, which is doing these videos and media creation and things like that. So
So, what skills are necessary to excel at the position I'm in right now?
So as a global media fellow, which I think is what your position title is, kind of a perspective on what's going to connect with our audiences from an actual content perspective, and then the ability to create that content. So whether it's writing, whether it's videography, photography, use of different marketing tools, so like MailChimp or any of the events platforms, anything like that. So just kind of having this I mean, ultimately, media is intended for marketing, and so having both the media perspective and the marketing perspective is super important.
Have I shown any growth since my first day here? Or at least
None.
measurable type of thing?
No, I mean tremendous growth, right? Like I think you've really started taking you've done like this semester particularly, you've done an incredible job of being self-directed and saying I need to write these scripts for these videos, or how about we do this, and kind of tossing out new things to get involved in or new things to do. And so that's been awesome from where I guess it was a year ago that you started with us. A semester ago? Was it spring?
It was the spring semester.
Spring, yeah. So this is your like full year with us. So yeah, having seen you kind of fall in, get in with just doing startup thinking initially to now way more than that. Like I've loved watching the growth, and it's been so helpful in the Launchpad.
Awesome. Do you believe these skills that I provide and have learned through the position will apply in my professional career after?
Absolutely. I mean, it totally depends what you're going for. So if you're looking for marketing positions, content marketing, media positions. I mean, you haven't done so much the data and analytics side with us. Now, it's not to say that you don't have those skills, but it's just not something that we've pulled you into in the Launchpad. But from a marketing perspective, I would hire you all day long to do that for a company. So there would definitely be a clear kind of correlation in the real world professional environment if you apply to the right positions.
And so we did this thing called social styles,
Mm-hmm.
and you may have heard them.
I have no idea what they are.
So basically, it's describing how you respond and react to different situations and how you act in a team.
Okay.
I guess per se. And so mine was expressive, which is kind of like I go out and I talk to people and I make sure that everything gets done, but I don't do it in like a very like driverish type way.
Yeah.
I kind of just make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to and keep it like light.
Okay.
So would you agree with that being my type of social style, at least from your experience seeing me in the Launchpad?
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I mean, I think the way that you interact with the other students, with Linda and myself, and then anyone who comes into the Launchpad is incredible, but you're not in your face with it. You're not, kind of doing this hard sales mentality or tactics. You play that line really, really nicely.
Awesome.
All right. So, what is your name?
My name is Kole Bailey.
And how do I have relation to you as a former boss? Where did we work together?
We worked together at the White Butterfly Cafe and Boutique in Jackson, New Jersey. We were both part of the cafe.
Awesome. So, as my boss, as you were the manager at the time, what value did I bring to the team? Beyond my normal expectations, what value did I bring to the White Butterfly team?
What I actually value the most in pretty much anyone that I've hired for the cafe is more so honesty. In the hospitality industry especially, honesty is extremely important to not only the customer, but to me as a manager. So I really respected how you came across as genuine to other people and customers, more importantly.
Did I perform beyond my expected duties, or did I do just the minimal amount, or did I do less than you expected?
I actually think you did more than you expected. You were a pretty late season hire, and you continued on with us for the rest of the season. So I didn't really expect you to be as developed as the other employees, but you actually surprised me and actually went above and beyond and really put your all through the few shifts that I gave you during the week.
When I didn't get freaking rained out.
Yep.
Was I entrepreneurial in any way during my time at the White Butterfly? Did I have like maybe made suggestions or helped you out with something that was beyond my expectations that helped out with the leadership type roles?
Yeah, you've always had that extra business acumen to add into anything that you really did, and I know you really paid attention to the money that we were spending at certain points. And I know there's been a few times where you're like, "Hey, should we be using all of this for this? Because it's kind of expensive." So I know you kind of try to keep a lid on things as much as you can from someone who's just working a barista position there. So yeah, I really appreciated that too.
So in this entrepreneurship class, we did these things called social styles, and essentially it measures how you react and like how you perform in a team and your role in a team. So my personal one, when we took the test to measure it, was an expressive social style, which is essentially like I am very effective in a team environment and I'm really good at bringing people together to get a task done. I'm not necessarily like, we need to get this done and this is exactly how it's going to get done, but I am a person who says, all right, this is what we need to get done. This is probably what we need, and let's not like put too much pressure on it, but we should definitely try and get it done. Would you think that type of style makes sense in how I performed at the White Butterfly?
Actually, yeah, absolutely. I think that's pretty spot on. I know you didn't want to like overstep your bounds because, of course, you don't want to seem like you're trying to really tell people what to do. But I think you led them in a way that they didn't really expect by taking them with you. So I thought you got the team together and you all set out on your goals. And I don't really think they realized that you were actually like helping them be led to a common goal. So yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Point of this project is kind of like self-discovery type of thing, and we're just trying to like map out exactly what our like pros and cons are in a working environment, and as entrepreneurs, like what we can learn as far as building our own business and how we work well with other people. So, do you know of any flaws per se? Whether it was, I mean, you were my boss, but we also like know each other on a personal level. So, what would you say is probably a significant flaw in my ability to be an entrepreneur or a leader? Like, if you could pick one or two from what you've seen.
Judging from what I've seen professionally at the cafe, when you got the job, you were obviously like doing other things. You also had another job at the time, and I kind of feel like you kind of held yourself back a little bit when it came to work. It seemed like you kind of didn't really treat the position to 100% of your ability because you were just there to just get a few extra dollars for college and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing you professionally, I don't really think that's the case. When you set your eyes on something, you pretty much do it at that point. But taking both of those into consideration, if I have to see you as just an entrepreneurial person instead of just like a person that I know or an employee, I'd say that your flaw is pretty much just like sticking to the task like as much as you can. I feel like you kind of distract yourself sometimes with different avenues on how to approach certain things, and that kind of like bleeds into like other topics that you focus on completely. So I'd say just like focusing on like one singular task instead of exploring the other options, I think would be beneficial to you in the long run.
Would you say I'm more of a direction seeker? Like I seek out like, okay, how do I do this, and I do it almost exactly as directed? Or do you see me more as a risk taker when it comes to getting assignments? Like, do I go by my own type of way or try to figure things out on my own more, or do I kind of just rely on directions?
I wouldn't necessarily call it risk taking. I know I've told you to like do a few things. Like I know I told you how to like set up like your dish pit whenever you were on dish, and I also told you like what the process is for making like lattes, cappuccinos, and stuff like that. But I think there have been a few times where you're like, oh, I actually just ended up doing it this way. It saves me some time. So I wouldn't really call it like risk taking, but I think you explore different avenues of how to get the job done, and you just test and see what works for you, and would ultimately just work overall to get your job done more efficiently. So I think that's always really going to be how you respond to certain things. I don't really think you're always going to be limited to what another person says and just sticking to that. I don't really think you're kind of like the keep your head down and keep working kind of guy, you know?
Mm-hmm. I try not to be. Would you say I'm more of a? Do you know what convergent and divergent thinking is?
Is convergent sort of like isolated thinking, and divergent is like more explorative in thinking?
That's exactly what it is. Would you say I'm more of? Which one would you say I'm more of?
You're definitely more of a divergent thinker. I wholeheartedly agree that you think about what objects are in your path, and you sort of try to explore how you can get through those obstacles. So I think you have a lot going on in your mind, and you kind of think about different avenues to go down.
Yeah, 'cause that's a big part of the entrepreneurship class. If I haven't mentioned it, it's called imagination and problem solving, and it's kind of like getting us to explore new boundaries of like our regular mundane thinking and trying to let us push the boundaries of what we are doing in certain business and team environments. And I guess to formulate a question out of that would be, how do you believe that? I mean, me and you talk a lot about different businesses to start and different ideas for cafes that me and you would probably be run well together. And like, I mean, we worked well together as far as I could see. So how do you think? How do you think that my divergent thinking will continue to help me in my professional career? And if we were per se, if me and you, let's say, went into a business, how do you think our styles of thinking together would react with one another? My expressive and your, at least from my perspective, I feel that you're more of a driver type because you like to get stuff done now. You like to know like what direction you're headed in. I mean, you're a divergent thinker just like I am, but you're much more focused and like end goal type of thinking. So how do you think that works well together when we did?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. From seeing small things at like the discount at the cafe, I'm sorry, seeing your divergent thinking in action with getting just mundane simple tasks done more efficiently, I think that's extremely beneficial because I see myself in exactly the way you think, like divergent thinking, but more center focused, and I can honestly like benefit from being with around another thinker who is more creative than I am.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, but if we were to go into business together, I definitely would benefit from your way of thinking because I do like set myself as a goal. Like I set goals in my life and stuff like that, but I feel as if you think more about the goal and how to get to it instead of just like going towards it. So I think you would definitely help me out a bit if we were together.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences, at least as I see from me and you, is like you're very. I'm not a very scheduled person, I guess, per se. Like I kind of just do as directed, but I don't do it in a it's got to get done now, not later kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people, but you specifically are very like if you have a task, you'd like to get it done as soon as possible, and if you don't get it done as soon as possible, you know exactly how to schedule it into like your everyday life. And I think that's a big difference between you and I, at least as far as performance wise goes.
Isn't necessarily going by your own beat and like thinking of like new things, but like taking what the formula was set as and sort of remixing it a little bit so it's more efficient and looks nicer. And I think that's stuff that you've done with your job, essentially, just to keep like your station clean when you were like making drinks or stuff like that. Like you usually kept a tight lid on pretty much everything that you did, but also when you were on the dish pit, like just keeping it organized and clean, so like all of like the dishes were pretty much like set in stone. Like I didn't really have to like worry about anything about you because you pretty much had your own system figured out and it worked out for you. So I think that goes along, I guess, with creative thinking because you didn't really do what other people did to get the job done, but you still got the job done.
Okay, yeah, because we did this assignment where we had to list our what we saw as our top 10 accomplishments and like list them, and the point I'm trying to make is at one point we had to list the skills and traits that went along with each accomplishment. And for me individually, the traits and skills that came up the most were uh leadership, intelligence, and athleticism. And would you say those are three top traits of mine, like as a individual, whether it be in the workplace or not? Like, would you think those are three of the top traits that I bring along with whatever responsibility I need?
What were the traits again? I'm sorry.
So it was intelligence, athleticism, and risk taking, or in leadership rather.
Leadership.
Yes.
Yeah. I think all of them do actually apply to you and work done. Athleticism. I mean, athleticism in the workplace is as much as you can get out of it. I mean, obviously it's not appropriate to be like sprinting around everywhere, but like you moved at like a good safe pace and you didn't really like overshadow anyone or anything like that. So I mean, uh, I'd say you were athletic as the job parameters allow. But leadership, I do actually think that was a good quality of yours. And in a lot of workplaces, people see like leadership as like a person who like takes charge and like tells other people to like do this and that and like tells them what to do and kind of like shadows over them. But leadership, more so to me, this is my philosophy. But I think a good leader is someone who can work with everyone else and still bring them to that goal together. So that goes against with your intelligence and communication skills as well, because you were able to lead people, but the best part is they didn't feel like you were telling them what to do. You were with them along the way. So I think if you stayed along with the cafe for a little bit while longer, you would be able to experience more leadership roles there and actually understand that you do have that effect on people.
Yo, what's up?
Okay.
All right. So you go first, cause I've been asking interview questions, but every time I've had all my interviews so far, I've like barely made it to 20 minutes. So I kind of want to hear what questions you have.
I mean, honestly, I have no questions, so I'm just gonna shut them off right now.
All right, bet.
All right, I'm gonna start like right now.
Cool.
All right, so Dave, what have you learned in this class?
Well, this class has definitely taught me more about
divergent thinking and thinking outside of the box kind of thing. I mean, it's imagination and problem solving, so that necessarily makes sense. And this whole triple meat project, especially, has really opened me up to like things I haven't remembered in a while. You know, like things I did as a kid or things I used to do that I've learned from and such. So it's been a been a nice building process, and it just kind of complements the topics of the class of just like thinking like you if you were a kid, like imagining and thinking outside of the box type of thing, like I just said. So yeah, overall, that's
I feel you, dude. Feel the same. I feel like it's made me a lot more creative.
yeah, it's like it's different than a lot of classes because you're used to just sitting there and getting lectured at kind of thing, and then getting examined on what you just got like talked to about. So this class is kind of like being so interactive and being so back and forth with the project going along for the whole semester and just the group projects that we do. It's a lot more, I guess, towards the work environment we're gonna be in, a lot more open and like communicative. So that's what I like about the class, especially.
You know, what has this class taught you about like working in groups and stuff?
It's been different than a lot of other group work because a lot of other group projects, it's kind of just like, all right, everybody split up, do their minimal amount of work that like you split up evenly between all the people, and then you all get it done and hand it in at the same time, kind of thing. But this class really encourages you to actually work together and like not just name your own ideas, but like bounce ideas off each other and really create like the best possible outcome for that project.
I feel you. And in those groups, you don't have to give me a name or anything, but do you ever have any difficulty with anyone, or were you like, or was there anyone that was like really good to be with, and like why?
I mean, my second throwdown group I remember was really we actually won the second throwdown, and they were actually really nice with me because I had happened to get sick over the weekend that they were meeting to fix up the presentation and such. So I wasn't as in
I'm sorry, but which group is that?
the
Like,
second throwdown group, the one with the drop top, the thing with the hose, the irrigation system.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah. So that one it was a great presentation, but like I couldn't be as big a part of it as I wanted to be necessarily. And they worked with me really well, and they didn't complain when I couldn't be there for the presentation or anything. They just said do your work and get better, and they were really great about it. And we ended up winning, so it was a all around great team to work with.
So you didn't have any like problems with anyone?
I haven't necessarily had any problems with anybody. I mean, everyone so far in this class that I've met has been extremely understanding and just like wants to get the job done and get it done as well as we possibly can as a group. So I'm like this class is much different than a lot of classes for that reason. Everyone is actually motivated to get towards like a good end goal.
Okay. All right. What about I know for me at least, when I've been like asking people about like social styles and like what they think I am, I've gotten a lot of answers. What have you gotten? What do you believe you are, and compared to what others have said?
Well, when we took the assessment, I got expressive, and I understood it because like I'm very just like understanding, and I like working with people, and I like working towards the end goal, but not making it my sole mission in the group kind of thing. So a lot of people have been able to guess that once I tell them what the social styles are. But if I can assume yours, is it either amiable or analytical?
I mean, dude, personally, I think it's a mix of both of those.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout the process of like interviewing people and asking them, I've gotten so many different results that I feel like it's just a matter of like the position I'm in and how I naturally feel like I can best fit in that position. But yeah, when I first did it, I pretty much got it like right in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then apart from that, like personally, I think I'm very analytical and also amiable, but I have like certain expressive things, and like if I really do like something, I'm a driver, so I really think I just I think I adapt to what is needed.
I feel that. I was pretty when I got the expressive as mine. I was like pretty far from driver. But I was pretty close to amiable. Like I was pretty far down, but I was also right on the line between amiable and expressive. Because I feel like I kind of like take my time with things. Like drivers aren't necessarily they're very like goal driven, and they kind of try and get it done as soon as possible when they can. And I'm more of like a laid back kind of like I do it as I need to type of person, which is why I think I got more expressive.
So which one do you think you fit best with? Or which one do you think would be like the one that you least get along with?
Least get along with? Probably analytical, and I don't want to say I don't get along with them, but it's like I can't relate to them, I guess, per se. Because I'm very like I like to talk things out. I like to take opinions rather than facts for most things to see like when we can get the best answer for everybody rather than just the one direct answer. Because you never know what comes out of different people's opinions, so that's how I like to see it. So analytics, they like to focus on like facts and knowing exactly what they need to do to get a certain job done, and I'm not necessarily like that. So I kind of butt heads where I'm like, all right, let's take our time with it when they want to like just answer it analytically.
I feel like personally, I have issues when a person's like too much of one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're very driven or if you're very expressive, amiable or analytic, I have a problem because I feel like you should be able to adapt to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But people are just like strictly one. It's like where I feel like I have the biggest issue. And then just people that can like adapt and like understand the situation. That's like I flow better with those people.
No, yeah, I feel that because like if I was stuck in like a group full of drivers, I would feel like I had to compensate by doing more to like because if I'm working with all drivers, they're not going to want to slow down for my expressive type of like laid back style. So I like to adopt to it, and that's what I feel like a lot of people don't know how to do, or at least don't know how to do well. So they kind of just stick to their certain social style and don't relate too much to the rest of the team.
Very good.
So here I have a question for you.
Go for it.
So what value, and you can ask the same question if you'd like, what value do you think I added most to Throwdown 1 team when we were working together?
Bro, you created the video. You know? Like, it was important to have that video. It was important to... I don't think any of us in that group would have been able to do a video that came out that well. Like, we don't have the editing skills. We don't have, like, the visuals that you have, you know? Like, it's just part of, like, your knowledge. So I feel like just being able to have someone that's just like, yo, you know what? Like, I can take care of this. I know how to do it, and, like, you wanted to do it because you know how to do it well. So that contributes a lot to a group knowing and, like, allowing us to, like, give our... What's the word I'm trying to find, though? We can count on you, knowing that you wanted to do it, and you were gonna be good at it.
No, yeah, that's why I liked working with you guys for that reason, because I know as soon as we decided to do a video type of thing, when as soon as I hopped on it, you guys were all just like, okay, like we trust you to get this done, and you guys got your side done, and you especially, like, you put a lot of work into the presentation and like doing the back work of it while I just created the video. So it was kind of like, it was a nice pairing. The whole team was nice, but I feel like our values, everybody's values in that group kind of worked together to make a really good project. Unfortunately, we didn't win, which is unfortunate, but I think we came out with a really good project.
Yeah, I really liked our Throwdown 1 group because I thought that, like, each of us had we connected well with the project.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I don't want to... Alright, so, like, Yona is amazing. She, like, led the group.
Yeah.
She was just in charge of us actually getting shit done, which is necessary. And you need someone that can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Liz was there to, like, help and do anything that was needed. Will was always there, also like helping and doing what was needed. Like he just brought a good like atmosphere to the group.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think I was just in charge of like building something. I don't know what you thought of me in Throwdown 1, and if you want to answer that, you can right after this. But you also like you fit in perfectly with like the video part. So like we all were doing our unique things, but like doing it just naturally, and I think it came out really well.
No, yeah, I mean, when I walked in, I remember when I walked into the house the last time that we met when we were building the prototype, and I saw you making the prototype, and I was like that thing worked. I was impressed. Because you were just out there cutting toilet paper, and I was like, is this actually going to work? And that was crazy.
Dude, honestly, I have no idea how that worked.
I appreciated that.
Yeah, it was weird. I'm pretty sure you're the one that came up with the idea of the reader, wasn't you?
I think so, yeah, but I didn't really, like, picture it that, like, I didn't think it would work out so well. Like, we did a really good job with that.
Yeah.
For the amount of time we had.
Yeah, it was crazy.
But yeah, that group, like, it was a good group too because like the mentality of the team is equally as important as the skills that you bring. So like everyone on that team was there. Like we clicked almost immediately. We were all just hanging out, like building the prototype, just doing whatever on Sunday morning. It was great.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I had a good time doing the project.
What value do you think you brought to Throwdown 2?
I think because I was so limited in like the actual presentation part, I worked really hard on the back side of it, like the document that we had to hand in, and I really went back and did a lot of research on the irrigation system, and I did the kind of the summary, and I asked them questions, whatever they needed help with. I helped them with. I did a lot of grammatical proofreading and such. So I did as much as I could, and the best value I could have brought was just in that writing sense.
Okay, that's good.
How about you? How was your Throwdown 2 experience?
My Throwdown 2, I don't know if you remember the one I was doing something about monetary pollution.
Oh yeah.
Trying to bring up awareness for that.
How was building? Were you one of the people that built the monument that got taken down?
Yeah.
How was that experience?
Well, I'm not trying to say anything mean about anyone, but like the dynamic of this group was totally different from the first group, bro. So like, it was really hard. Like, it was really hard to like get as a group. Like some of our members would like not show up, like thought like other things were more important. So like of course we give them like a background job and like let them do that thing, but like I don't know. I feel like as a group we weren't very united. I feel like there was like cliques inside our group, and because of that, like it just the ideas weren't flowing correctly. Like instead of doing what we really needed to do, we were doing what like
you had to do.
What the opinion of someone was. You get me? Just because like, no one wanted to like say no to them. And if someone brought up like a problem with it or an issue with it, like some of our groups were like some of our group was really into the project because of the amount of work that they had put in. So any comment that would come saying like, yo, like maybe we should do it some way, like it was taken personal, and I think at the end of the day we did do a good project. I think we should have like targeted to like our target market was like you guys and like the other two professors. It wasn't just Professor Weimer, so I feel like we should have expanded it in different ways.
Yeah, I remember that's why our group chose the drop top idea, because it was more of like a social impact beyond just like saying you did something kind of thing. Like a lot of them were like donation based and like just spreading awareness, but we actually made like a physical product that would create change, and that's why I think our group came in first, and that's why I think because the other two professors were all about social change, so they.
Yeah, one of the I forgot I think he's Mexican. He does social entrepreneurship and like.
Yeah, I forget his name.
Yeah, Mexico or something like that. He's like, you guys just pretty much just shot an idea at him, you know? Like, my idea was clearly not for that man, you know? Like, we should have, like, understood our target market and done it differently. I don't know. But, Yeah, I mean, I brought the value into that group because I was the only one that, like, spoke my mind when things weren't going the way that I viewed them, not that they should have been going. So they had, like, a different idea for the project, and I would come in and be like, yo, we need to change this. Like, as good as this is, like, we need to, like, make it an art piece, you know?
Yeah, that's the problem. Is like a lot of people are afraid to say like when someone else like if you have a different idea or like you want to change something. A lot of people are afraid to like share that. But that's why I think the second throwdown group worked so well with me is because I was worried that they were gonna get mad, like that I wasn't doing too much, but they just kind of like made sure I did what I had to do, and that
Yeah.
was like at the end of the day, it just worked out. It was like, hey, do this, you got it, and then we all got it done, and that's what made it work so well.
And I don't know, but, like, personally, I like to lead in certain ways. And I think, like, a good leader is, like, a better follower.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if, like, someone in my group isn't showing up and, like, it's doing, like, not doing work. I like to approach it very different. Like, I like to be like, hey, like, walking up to them, like, 101, be like, why are you doing this, you know? Not like, start talking behind the person's back, like, start being like, yo, I'm so pissed about this, like, I can't believe she's, like, missing, or, you know?
No,
It's
yeah, I
just
feel you.
sending them rude messages, or our project went wrong, and egos started flying up, like, saying that certain things were happening because of other people, and it's just like, it was just a mess, honestly.
Yeah, like there shouldn't be that much drama in such a mundane throwdown project.
It's a throwdown too, man. Like, it's just a project. You know?
Yeah.
Like, do the best job that we can, and that's it. You know, once it's done, it's done. Like, if someone didn't show their work, I don't know. You put it on a paper, and that's it. You don't have to, like, talk about it.
No, yeah, you gotta be.
Creating tension that was, like, I feel unnecessary sometimes.
That's why I think those evaluations afterwards are so important. Is because like, if there is somebody who isn't like doing their part, you can be honest at least in that sense in the for her to see. And if everybody else in the group agrees, like they said the same thing because the person just didn't do their end of the work, it's nice to have that at least known by her while she's grading that, you know?
Yeah, you see, my problem with it at that point is there's some people that would do a lot more work, but their work might not be correct, or you know.
No, yeah, I feel you.
So, like, yeah, there's some kids that did more work, but at the end of the day, like,
who added the most value to the team?
Yeah, exactly. Like, who actually put things in place, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's what's tough about group projects always.
Yeah.
I like to be pretty honest when I do the assessments at the end. Like if I know, like for the throwdown 2, I knew I didn't put as much work in as these guys did because they did the presentation and such. I was sick in bed, so I was honest when I said like I did less percentage than these guys because I couldn't participate the same, and I feel like people aren't as honest in their assessments like that.
I mean, I try to be honest about this, no matter of my opinion on the other people. Well, did I ask you, like, how has this class affected you creatively, and how have you approached a creative situation differently because of this class?
Well, I'm a pretty entrepreneurial person in the sense that I have a lot of. You ever just sit there, you have an idea, and you start thinking about it, and then you just kind of remember it, but you put it to the side. Like I do that all the time. Like that's just how my entrepreneurship style, and so I just have a lot of ideas. But this class has made me look at ideas that I've had in the past and the ones I've had since, and kind of view them from a more divergent standpoint. And I feel like I've been coming up to better conclusions with those ideas. And even in my job, I'm a global media fellow over at the Blackstone Launchpad, and I basically just create media for different campaigns there. And because of this class, I work with different startups around campus, and I'm able to look at those startups in a more divergent way and to help them create better marketing campaigns. So it really has helped me in that sense of just being a little bit more creative and a little bit more out of the box with what I'm doing. So that's definitely added value to my professional career as well.
That's great, yeah.
How about you?
I'm like not that big of an artist. I have like I'm an entrepreneur in the way that like I like how you said I come up with ideas every day and I just put them aside and of course I've had my ideas and I keep on building them. I kind of just let them rest and then in a couple when it comes up again I kind of like the creative thoughts that you have to put away and then find these things that like mix together and then once you find those things you kind of like develop the idea even more. But this class has just been made me like want to become more artistic, whether it be like taking pictures, like painting, drawing, and apart from that, like I've been able to get my friends involved in it too. So I've been able to like experience like their creative thoughts and their imaginations, and in doing so, we sit down and we talk about like, all right, let's start a business. What business can we talk about? And we literally just sit down for an hour just coming up with a business plan, which is like not like something that normal people do for fun. But because of this class and because of how like creativity has like
it motivates
creativity has really become one of like the things I think about almost every day now.
Yeah.
Because of the class, so like literally, I'm telling them like, yo, we're coming up with like one new business plan a day, and if someone comes up with it, like we think about it and we digest it, like we break it down as much as we can, and it's really helped in like building different ideas from like different concepts, but with like the same ideas that in those different concepts. It's been great.
No, yeah, it's definitely done the same for me. I just think of things way more creatively now, and like I like to sit down and actually think out feasibility of different ideas and such. So this class has definitely been valuable for a lot of different reasons.
I agree.
Alright, so first, state your name and our relationship.
Okay.
Take your time.
My name is Helton Kisiko, and I am Dave's roommate and best friend.
That's cute. So, when did we first meet?
We first met about 2 years ago, freshman year of college. We were roommates on Day Hall, 8th floor.
So, a lot of roommates have some pretty big issues, especially freshman year. Like, not too many freshman year roommates are still roommates today, let alone friends today. So, why do you think me and you have continued to have a good friendship? Like, what is it about our individual traits that you feel complements the fact that we're still friends and we're good roommates at the time?
We're both pretty honest with each other, and we don't take offense to that honesty when we don't like what each other's doing. And we're also pretty understanding. We can put ourselves in different perspectives. And we share the same friend group.
This is true. I remember me, you, and Brooke, our other friend Brooke, were the original three out of our now existing group of friends. And in this class, actually, we had an assignment where we had to draw our fan club. And initially, my first reaction was, like, my family, like a normal person, you know. But
my second reaction, it was a reaction almost immediately, was to put you guys. And I thought that was pretty cool for such a level of friendship ever since just coming to college.
Yeah, that is cool.
So I think it's interesting how we've not only gotten along since back in freshman year, but we've also just grown as a friend group around us. And it just goes to show, at least for me, that our traits, at least at some level, I mean, I know me and you bounce off jokes and different ideas all the time, just like it's nothing. And I think that really adds to the relationship, and it also adds to our academic careers, because we really bounce a lot of different ideas school-wise off each other. Would you say that?
Yeah, of course, man. Always bouncing off business ideas and plans every time we watch Shark Tank. And it helps us think, and it also helps us bond in a way. Although I wouldn't say we're like your fans. More like supportive witnesses, if you will.
Supportive witness. That's exactly what a fan is. What do you think a whole baseball stadium is?
No, because fans could be very biased and like whatever you do. We'll point out, hey, maybe that's not a good idea. If you choose to do it, we'll watch.
I guess that's why we keep getting along, is because you just keep watching me do stupid things. Oh my goodness. So in my Triple E class, we took these assessments where it defined our social styles, which is basically how we react in group environments and how we work with other people and react to other people. And so after my assessment, I was labeled as expressive, which is more so like being able to relate to everybody on the team and being able to react to different situations. And it's not necessarily like goal driven, but it's goal oriented. And I just try to get the team together and I try to get the job done. Maybe not in the most efficient way, but in the best way that I feel the team can. Would you agree that this is about my social style, at least from the relationship we've had or you've seen me have with other people?
Yeah, definitely. Our friend group is very diverse, a lot of different personalities. So you can't be really efficient. It's better to be goal-oriented and, just try to get the job done as quickly as possible to avoid conflict or something coming out that may hinder any results. And I see that in you.
Do you... I know since college, I mean, at least me personally, I haven't been quite as, I mean, in high school I was very involved in a lot of different clubs and a lot of different activities. And in college, for me at least, I haven't been participating in as much school-based activities as much as I am working or being at home and hanging out and doing, home-type things. And I'm just wondering if you think there's anything that I could be doing better, or at least that you've witnessed over the past 3 years that we've been friends. What traits you think I have that I could probably improve on? Because I don't know if I'm involved as much. Maybe I am involved enough, and I'm just feel like I don't. You tell me. What have you seen throughout our years?
I think you're involved in, a good amount of things. You have the internship in Blackstone.
Job now.
Yeah, job now. And, that's enough. Internship and going to classes. That's pretty good. As far as what you can improve on is maybe not procrastinating so much when you work. But other than that, yeah.
How have you seen me, at least personally, maybe not necessarily grow, but change over the years, for better or for worse? If you have any insight on what maybe because I feel like I'm significantly different, at least in my mindset and my thinking and the way I do things, than I was freshman year.
Yeah.
And I just want to know your perspective on that, because you probably saw me come in as a whole different person than I am now.
I did. Freshman year, Dave, would never do the things that junior year Dave was doing. For example, you used to like sleep early all the time, and you weren't like as social like past our friend group. You stayed in your room a lot. And now, you know, you go out to all the gatherings with us. You meet new people. You know a lot of people from different social groups, and you could like you're like the bridge that could connect that all. You could chill with your internship buddies or your friends that you make in class that you also hang out with on occasion. And you could also chill with us, you know, be comfy. And you're more comfortable around more types of people.
That makes sense. Because coming to college, at least, I mean, I'm sure for everybody, is kind of like a culture, not culture shock, but a culture like awareness.
Yeah.
Because you start to see like just people from different parts and how they act differently. And I mean, at least me personally, I've resonated a lot more with the people I've met here at Syracuse, and I feel I've learned a lot more. I mean, academically in the school sense, but it socially in the sense of like the community here, and especially just our friend group. Especially, I mean, you were just mentioning the diversity that we have.
Yeah.
I mean, we got people from New York, Chicago, India, we got Florida, crazy. Yeah, but I think that all helps attribute. I mean, or at least would you agree that helps attribute to our success thus far and going forward in school?
Yeah, definitely. A huge part of success is experience, and once you expose yourself to different cultures and different people from different backgrounds, you gain a lot of experience in how to be around them, be comfortable around them, how to navigate through different personalities, which is great, especially if you're trying to do marketing or anything in terms of business. And it's just a great social tool to have, to be able to, you know, communicate with different people without being awkward and just keeping it natural.
Whoa. How have you seen me, at least in some capacity, use creativity throughout the years? I mean, whether it be at, like, examples of things I've done at work, or maybe you've seen me do something like that we're just living together that no one else would really notice, but it was a creative decision or creative solution to a problem that we had as roommates or as friends. Mm-hmm. Do you have any examples that you can remember?
Well, you've always been like a creative person. I remember when you wanted to be a director, you made us do this skit for a movie or a short presentation that you were making for your profile, and that was very creative. There was also in your internship / job, you're in charge of the filmmaking. You made a huge film as a promo for Blackstone, which is very popular, and in the house we have the system, which is kitchen guy, bathroom guy, and living room guy, and that's a system that we all created together. And you know, creativity is a huge part of that.
Worked out semi-well so far. So far a successful creative solution.
It kept us out the danger zone.
Yeah.
It's just enough.
For the first couple weeks were muddy, and then we figured out our system.
We're at a bad week, but it's passes.
There's not many people, at least me personally, that I can. I mean, I know me and you especially, we sit down and we watch shows like Shark Tank and these business investment type shows pretty often.
Yeah.
And besides the information we talk about, like on the TV show, we tend to veer off into our own little spiels and ideas that we have while we're watching these. And I just want to know your perspective on those conversations. Like, do you feel those conversations as just like, oh, it's just us people talking? Or like, because I know me personally, when we bounce ideas off each other, they're not like, oh, run-of-the-mill, like, oh, anybody could probably say this, like, oh, there's observing the TV show and say, like, we have really in-depth type conversations that go well beyond any idea mentioned in the show or anything we're watching. So I want to know your perspective on those conversations, like how they've been constructive especially from freshman year to now, like our mindsets and our knowledge that has grown since then. I want to know your take on all that.
I mean, I think our conversations are always really fruitful, and helpful in terms of bouncing ideas off and sparking innovation towards those ideas. So I always appreciate them when they happen, and just like you, I don't think they're just ideas or simply conversation. Like oftentimes I write down notes on your points that I found helpful on my ideas, and when we bounce those ideas off each other, often the problems that we face are similar. So helping us find those solutions together is very nice. I appreciate it.
It's nice because they tell you come to college to network and such, and people tend to forget the value in just talking to your friends or your roommates about things that because your friends and roommates are the ones that see you the most often, so they're the ones that you probably would resonate at least differing ideas on, and you'd be able to bounce off more easily. And I think I appreciate at least, because I could go to anybody else in my class or my bosses or anything and bounce ideas off all day, but when I go to you or Christian or any of our other friends and I say the same ideas, you tend to attack it with a more creative and like realistic approach rather than just trying to find the flaws in it, because so we kind of build off each other.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's been a big factor in our friendship, is just because we've been able to like grow off each other versus just being friends to be friends.
Right.
And I think that's a big point in being an entrepreneur, is having that network that allows you to expand your ways of thinking and think differently. And this class is definitely very focused around channeling your divergent thinking side, which is more of like creative type thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think, me personally, I'm more of a divergent thinker, which, like I said, is more creative and out of the box type thinker, or a convergent thinker, which is more of a follow the lines, follow the directions type of person?
Well, I definitely think you're a divergent thinker, because if you follow the lines and follow the direction, once there's a problem that you've come to face that never has occurred before, you'll have no way to attack it. You'll be basically useless. While as a creative thinker, there's always thinking creatively, so no one problem is attacked the same way. It's always what's the most efficient way, and sometimes that's not always seen if you necessarily follow the guidelines presented to you throughout the history of the company or whatever you're trying to pursue. So that's why I like feeding ideas off of you, because we always have creative conversations, and we don't think of the big picture necessarily as how professionals would, whereas they see it as already a business. Instead, you see it as what it is, and then you say, how do you improve it in order for it to realistically become that big company or whatever.
I bet you 2 more questions, and I bet you we'd be perfectly fine.
Okay.
Have you, so with my expressive leadership style, from past conversations, it's been a common theme where the people that I've interviewed have said that when I work in teams, I tend to not necessarily lead in the sense that I tell people what to do, but I lead in the sense that I try to grab other people and motivate them as a whole to get a task done. And that's more like, would you agree that I'm more of a what type of leader do you see me as, at least from the perspective of projects I've been a part of, or jobs I've been a part of, or things that, or even just friendship events that we've had, like parties or events or whatever? I mean, you can say whatever you want, but what have you seen me do in the past that defines my leadership style?
Well, as I know, you're always like basically the go-to guy. You know how to get things done in a good way, and you know how to basically figure out how to attack a plan or a project before anyone else in your group does. So because of that, you immediately are as the leader because you know what to do, or you basically come up with the idea fastest, and those ideas usually work. So all that's necessary is for the pieces to move in the right way, and the most efficient way to do that, because of pride and all that, when it comes to group projects, is to motivate as opposed to ordering around, because ordering around isn't the best way to manage things anymore. Everyone's like equal. The leader position, the leader's job is to get the project done, and to get his the people that he's leading to get the job done in the most efficient way. In order to do that, they have to have morale, and they have to like what they're doing. Therefore, motivation, like you said, is the best way to do it.
So we play a lot of sports together. We play a lot of football, basketball, whatever we can. And I just want to know if there's anything I do during those sports, like during whether I'm playing football, whatever position I decide to play, or play basketball, whatever I decide to do. Does any of that translate to how you see me, like personality-wise? Like, does my athletic approach to different sports relate in any way to my leadership style or my way of behaving around just people in general?
Well, when it comes to sports, we usually play basketball and football. And in football, you have a really good throwing arm, so therefore you're the QB. That means as a QB, you have to be a leader in a sense, because you have to set up plays, you have to tell your receivers where to go. But at the same time, you're not, just barking orders. You're asking the team where your suggestions are for how they want to play. You're open to take suggestions, open to take plans, and you're always looking for the open man. So you're like sort of a contributor, which is your role in your projects. As far as I've seen, you're always the go-to person in order to get things done. And as far as basketball, you play off your strengths, which is what you do as a leader as well. You're very good at at being defensive, a great defensive player. So you always take on one of the toughest assignments if they're, not too tall or anything like that. So you're playing off your strengths and being the contributor is what I see in you as a leader.
That was a good answer.
Oh, shit.
All right, so we're recording. So, what is your name?
Michael Umbro.
Thank you, Mike. So, thank you for doing this with me.
Of course.
I'm calling you because I need to ask, or not calling. Luckily, we're able to sit down. Because I need to ask questions for somebody with my dream job, and I'm not 100% certain what I want to be, but I know I want to be an entrepreneur, and you are definitely one of those. So, could you start off by telling me about some of the businesses you've started?
Yeah, definitely. So, I started up around the early 2000s, and I ran a consulting company in New Jersey and continued that for about 10 years before selling it. So this was after I worked on Wall Street for about 5 years. I just got tired of the crazy, fast-paced environment, So after selling the first company, I worked for a couple of years and missed the aspect of owning my own business, and I decided to begin franchising. Through this, I began my Massage Envy business, and now I have 2 locations in New Jersey.
Awesome. So, so you did one franchise, one kind of just growing it as a brand new company. What's the difference in starting and owning a business venture versus starting up an existing franchise?
So starting your own company from nothing is always going to be riskier, mainly because you don't know what challenges are ahead of you, and you have to create an entire brand and culture around whatever you're selling or producing. So with the franchise, it was not easy per se, but you have the established brand, and it's essentially just up to you to market it correctly. Making sure you're functioning by the company's guidelines and that you bring people through the door.
So, how did you bringing people through the door? How did you initially gain customers? I mean, I know that's probably hard for any
Yeah.
business, but how did you initially gain customers in both companies?
So, okay, so for my consulting business, I relied heavily on cold calling clients, just straight up picking up answering and calling their phones, and using connections I had made from working at that point in life. It was difficult, of course, but it's important to be a great seller when starting your own business, which is an aspect a lot of people seem to overlook. Wait, what class is this for again?
It's an imagination and problem solving class. So essentially, we're learning how to develop like creative and divergent ideas for
Oh, okay.
companies.
Okay, so, well, exactly. So, what I'm saying is that people who want to start their own companies usually focus on how out of the box and unique the idea is. But a lot of them forget that the core principle of a business is to sell. Otherwise, you're not making money. So, yeah, during the first business, it was just a process to gain a lot of clients and to really create connections between them and the companies I was trying to connect them with. It's all about building the brand, especially in consulting. And you need companies to trust the clients you're providing them. So the Massage Envy business has been different. And when initially starting up, we had a lot of help with the design and equipment decisions by the national franchise, but we had to do a lot of push marketing and word of mouth advertising to get people through the door. They're both similar in the sense of just opening an opportunity for people and hoping that they take advantage of it. But the important part of being an entrepreneur is being able to convince people that your option is the best option. And having an existing brand definitely made it, at least on some level, but easier to build off of.
So, did you always want to be an entrepreneur and start your own company, or
Well, I wouldn't say always. I mean, I went straight to Wall Street after graduating and worked there for a while. It was the environment of Wall Street that turned me off from the idea of working for somebody, and it inspired me to work for myself. So definitely not always, but I can tell you for a fact that once you do it, it's hard to go back to working for somebody else. You start to realize the lack of control and decision-making power that you had when owning your own company.
so was starting your own company a rewarding experience, or was it just kind of like a lot of hard work?
Well, nothing good comes easy. It's great being an entrepreneur because you have that control and power to manage the business exactly as you want to. But the initial startup and the random issues that happen during the process of growing your business, those are tough to deal with sometimes. I mean, I had nights spent going through all of my paperwork and books to find mistakes or errors that could have cost me my business. Stop in that aspect, it can be challenging, but being able to get up and work for yourself, it makes it all worth it. That paperwork and bookkeeping may be annoying, but you understand that you only have it because you built something. You know what you're doing in a literal sense, and if it makes you happy, that's the goal.
Um, did you start your companies like with a goal of making money, or was it some other motivation?
Well, I did start my consulting company at first to make money, obviously, but I mean, I was fresh off of Wall Street. That's all I knew. so, so with that one, I would say it started off as a motivation for money, but quickly turned into a motivation for building and creating something that was my own. The massage franchise was motivated by wanting to own my own business, and after doing a lot of research, I found that the massage business was very lucrative. And while that kind of makes it sound like I was looking, so I was more so looking for a business I knew had the least chance of failure, because I wanted to really enjoy the experience of owning my own company again. And so far, it's been as rewarding as I planned.